Let's go way back to when I first discovered the site, back when everything about it still seemed magical.
We for so long wanted to be a part of Channel Awesome. For so long, Channel Awesome was like this big goal. It was like this magical pie in the sky type of idea of like, holy crap, we could be a part of Channel Awesome. That would be crazy.
For the most part, and I loved being on Channel Awesome. I love being able to tell people that I was on that site.
Channel Awesome was probably one of the best things that happened.
These guys gave me direction. They gave me a reason to wake up in the morning for years. And I am forever grateful for that.
I had always wanted to be a critic, but seeing all these people come together made Channel Awesome really the first place where I tried to give an honest attempt.
I don't think anyone, any of the other producers, worked as hard to specifically get on the site.
The real motivator, I think, was for me doing that was to sort of prove that, you know, I was somebody they should hire because I was this hardworking and this willing to do that, and you should never do that.
Management at Channel Awesome don't realize they're the problem.
To these days, they don't know how to run a company properly.
It's just been pretty depressing, shocking time to be doing this.
I am so tired of talking about Channel Awesome anymore. I'm so supremely tired.
After all this, I want nothing to do with the internet reviewing community. I want nothing to do with that.
I just didn't love making videos for Channel Awesome anymore.
If you've been following me on Twitter, you probably noticed me tweeting a lot about #ChangeTheChannel.
These are the most loyal producers you have. You should not be smashing them in the face first opportunity you get. That doesn't make any sense.
As much as it hurts me to say it, I'm done. I'm just done with Channel Awesome.
Hello and welcome to Cinematic Venom, and welcome to this documentary. It has now been an entire year since the controversy sparked up in regards to Channel Awesome, possibly the biggest channel in the entire movie review community online. And to this day, some people still aren't sure what happened, or others believe that they did nothing wrong. Others believe Doug Walker is completely innocent and someone else is to blame. So for the first time ever, we're going to go through absolutely everything, start to finish, from both sides, and find out what exactly happened with Channel Awesome. And this has nothing to do with the fact that they actually haven't been funny in years.
I'm not having us as the X-Men!
Then why'd you have us in the intro?
I just told the animator to draw something cool!
Yeah, that was cool. Now let's actually do it.
I can't! X-Month is over, so get out of here!
And it has nothing to do with the fact that they constantly insult anyone who disagrees with their opinions.
This movie sucked! It sucked! This movie fucking sucked! Which one is really better? The silly little kid version that no one remembers, or the super complex, dark and gritty grown-up version? What the hell are you people? Everybody applauded at the end because they loved Jungle Book and Cinderella, and we thought that sucked. You like it for a different reason than probably all the people out there watching like it. Oh, it's a terrible movie. Yes! It sucked! It sucked! Emma Watson can't sing! The beats look like CG shit because it sucked!
It is objectively bad.
It sucked! It's a terrible movie! It's dumb and pointless! It is such shit! Yeah, I know a ton of people did and still really, really enjoy this film. But you don't know anything. She was Hermione! Yeah, she was passable? You grew up with it! That's why you like it! Oh, I know. You're making fun of it?
Well, yeah, it's a cheesy 90s movie, man.
Yeah, it's fun, but we know it's bad.
Oh, that's right. This is a Happy Madison audience, where something that they see come out of them every day is suddenly hilarious because it reminds them of something that was scandalous when they were 2 years old. Just go and see the original classic! Knock knock!
Who's there?
This movie fucking sucked! It sucked!
But you know what, it doesn't really matter because I welcome all of the dislikes and all of the comments saying that I'm just jealous and doing this for views and Doug Walker did nothing wrong. He is completely innocent in all of this. He's a little saint who shits gold, his piss is the cure for cancer, and he saves little orphan babies from death blindfolded while surfing dolphins, fighting Nazis with chainsaws and solving world hunger. This is the entire story of Channel Awesome.
What the hell happened to me? I used to be the clown prince of comedy. I used to say they're all gonna laugh at you. And now I'm just praying that you'll laugh at me.
Doug Walker began his work on YouTube in 2007 under the name The Nostalgia Critic, which is practically the angry video game nerd for movies. A grown man angry that his nostalgia doesn't quite hold up and rips apart terrible films. Naturally, he became quite popular, even resulting in a feud with his inspiration, the nerd himself, played by James Rolfe. I myself found him through his Saved by the Bell review and was hooked instantly, loving his energy and graphic humour. I went back and watched every single episode from the very beginning and became a dedicated fan of his. I'd previously been inspired by his buddy Brad Jones, the cinema snob, to start my own reviewing show not long after, but Doug quickly took over as my main comedic YouTube inspiration.
It started off as something that was just a hobby in my parents' place, just to get a few laughs, just to see if I can be entertaining. And from that, it just exploded.
However, due to copyright issues, he gave up on YouTube and launched his own site in 2008 with now infamous Mike Machad. In just a year, the site grew in popularity so much that Doug was actually able to quit his job and take on his online work full time.
Oh god, they're coming, okay.
Are they really? Alright, let's
go. One of them is the target too.
Let's go.
Woo!
Hey, what have we learned today, boys and girls? Boys and girls, we have learned that that bridge has officially been burned.
But not only did Doug himself host a whole array of shows, but they also brought in many other talents who reviewed music, movies, video games, comic books. They had it all, but the site's main cash cow was always going to be the Nostalgia Critic, though it did get a lot of lesser known producers some more publicity. Many content creators who got their big break on the site consisted of Mike Jevons, Angry Joe, Linkara, the Blockbuster Buster, Obscurus Looper, Film Brain, Mars Girl, Spoonie, Phaelus, the Rap Critic, just to name a few. In 2009, to celebrate the website's 1-year anniversary, for the first time ever, they all got together to shoot a short anniversary special.
Hey, keep it down. I'm trying to be inspirational over
fuck
here.
you.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
It was only 20 minutes or so and all of the movie reviewers went head to head with the video game reviewers in a big epic brawl. It was actually just generally an awesome moment to see them all together, and it was quite fun to watch, even if it was clearly amateur in regards to production. They were just friends having fun, which you can definitely see in the behind the scenes as well, and egos just didn't come into the mix quite yet.
Woo! Root smooch, baby, we are here to rumble! Foo! Oh yeah, root smooch, baby, we are here to rumble!
That's right, Spoonie.
Oh, I hate you!
Give it time. A year later, now a tradition, they all got together to shoot their first movie, Kikassia.
First, we take Molossia, and then the neighbors down the street. And then their neighbors, and then their neighbors, and then their neighbors. Until we build a military force so gigantic that nobody will be able to stop us.
The site had grown considerably in the last year, so the cast was a lot bigger, but it was still handled relatively well. Although not a terrific movie, as a fan of the producers, it was awesome to see them all together making a feature film. Most of it was just in-jokes from the shows, but it was still a lot of fun. Then the next year, they turned it up a notch with Suburban Nights.
At last, a worthy place to call our battlefield.
An even longer feature film on an even bigger budget and received much more praise for its improved plot and the fact that it was more of an actual film than its predecessor. To Hollywood standards it wasn't great, but for an online film it was actually pretty entertaining. For the 4th year anniversary came To Boldly Flee, a 3.5-hour mini-series. No, really, 3.5 hours.
Hey, remember your first review? Mine was Equilibrium.
That wasn't smart.
No, the fanbase absolutely hated it.
I liked it. Blah 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 by Kesha was mine.
The Last Unicorn. Pocahontas.
I don't even remember my first review. I just remember being really angry and loving every minute of it.
A sci-fi comedy mostly set inside Doug's house, as the previous film suffered many issues as it was primarily shot outdoors, and Chicago delivers cold and rain for breakfast, lunch and dinner. But this was a much bigger production with much better special effects, story, and it also saw the end of the nostalgia critic character.
In this world, I've given you purpose. You have reason to exist. You have a point in being here. But out there, you'll be the dealer of your own destiny.
For about 6 months.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and I'm back to remember it so you don't have to.
Despite its increased budget and production, a lot of people were unhappy with this film, finding it far too long and egocentric. But personally, I loved it. I thought the acting was great, the script was really intelligent with the self-deprecation and meta style. I thought it was a really good movie. However, Doug scrapped the nostalgia critic character, believing that it was time to move on, hiring new actors Malcolm Ray and Rachel Teets for a hit new original show called Demo Reel.
What is Demo Reel? Well, how do I put it? You got movies. Old and new, low budget and big budget, appealing to all sorts of different audiences. And as great as all these movies are, in all humbleness, we can do it better.
Demo Reel. We don't make films, we remake them.
It was a complete rip-off of Be Kind Rewind.
You erased these tapes!
What is that?
That's the Ghostbusters theme song.
No.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It's something strange.
Stay where you are. I'm on my way. Then I got slime.
What's happening to her eyes?
Our version is better.
It was like exactly the same. They didn't even try to hide it, and yet nobody points it out. The show flopped and the website began to lose a huge amount of views and traffic. But months later, Doug felt inspired again and brought back the critic.
Hey Brad, I'm having a debate on whether or not to bring the Nostalgia Critic back.
Oh, well, I don't care.
Rachel soon departed the site for further opportunities in LA and was replaced by Tamra Chambers as the show continues to this day. The 5th year anniversary was cut down considerably. Unable to afford another movie.
And we can only afford one more of these anniversaries anyway!
To be fair, I'm actually genuinely amazed that they were able to write, produce, shoot, edit and release 3 movies, one each year. I mean, they'd film them in April and they would come out in the summer. That's insane. Unable to afford another movie, though they for some reason blamed it on the crap weather instead, the 5th year anniversary was actually a collection of short films produced by people on the site, and then the anniversary special stopped, and that's when things began to go downhill. In January of 2015, longtime Channel Awesome producer Obscurus Looper, real name Allison, was fired from the website. Around 2013 or 2014, Allison visited Doug himself to film with him in his studio, but this episode would never be released as it took months to edit together for some reason, and she was fired not long after. This was an interview and Doug asked some uncomfortable questions about her personal life, and when she failed to improvise at one point, as she's admitted that it's not one of her strong points, Doug harshly stated that she'll never make it in this business.
You probably noticed from the things that I've written about this that I have a huge problem, not just with Mike Machad, but with Rob Walker and with Doug Walker, because they are complicit in this. And I know a lot of people want to believe that they're not involved or that they don't know about this stuff because they make videos that they like and they are nice in the videos. And they're not monsters all the time. They were nice to me at times. But there were times when they said some really hurtful things and did some hurtful things. And they were part of decisions that affected us.
And it wasn't until after everybody else had left when Allison was confronted by Mike Machad, who lambasted her for using mid-rolls in her videos. She was struggling financially and did it as a way to help herself out, but he didn't care and claimed that people were using ad block, which affected Channel Awesome's money. He allegedly even intentionally left insulting comments up on the site that were criticizing Allison for the ads instead of just talking to her directly first.
And whatever you want to say about the mid-rolls, the way that he handled this was really just atrocious, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I cried in the bathroom in the studio because I was so upset over this.
To his credit, Doug did console Allison, who was upset over this ordeal, and he claimed that he'd look into it. They soon had a Skype call not long after, but none of Mike's unprofessionalism and bullying was ever mentioned. Alison was on the verge of just quitting altogether for at least a year. This is when Patreon became huge and she started to use it to help herself and her content out, but this angered Michaud and the company, who just didn't understand Patreon and saw it as e-begging. Previously, Mike Jevons' campaign to raise money for his feature film was promoted, but now all of a sudden it was an issue. The company began making absurd rules about how long a Patreon ad can be, but then Brad was allowed to promote his fully without a problem, but no apology was ever administered to Alison. However, when she confronted Doug for help, she was simply told to just make more videos instead. She was then asked for a Skype call, but she was away from the computer for 15 minutes, and because she didn't reply in those 15 minutes because she was filming more videos which they wanted, she was fired, and she's provided screenshots proving this. Imagine just going to the shop for 15 minutes, come back, oh that's it, you've lost your job. Fellow producer Phaelus, real name Phelan, who is Lupa's boyfriend, was so angry at the company that he actually quit in protest, but things went quiet for a while. This wasn't even brought to the public until later on. But now, it has amazingly been 1 year since the controversy sparked back up. So let's go through all of this and find out what happened 12 months later. Thanks to the wonderful world of Twitter, a bunch of Channel Awesome producers began exchanging their awful experiences with the company, and this led to a lot of them realising that they now had a big enough fan base and were able to walk away from it all, quitting completely. After a lot of things were exchanged, Channel Awesome did eventually respond. Apparently with an apology. We wanted to take a moment to clear the air and acknowledge some of the recent public concerns raised by content creators previously associated with Channel Awesome. Channel Awesome is an organisation that respects our producer partners and strives to create the best possible environment for everyone. We welcome a diverse community of people joining together to create great videos. For the people who have spoken out about past instances they deemed hurtful or unprofessional, we sincerely regret you felt that way.
That you feel that way, not that we did something. Not that we did something. Not that Channel Awesome did a thing. We regret that you feel like we did a thing to you. Oh, I'm sorry that's how you interpreted everything you went through over the course of 9 years. Oh, you're bad.
I'm gonna guess that the way this was worded escaped them for how bad it sounded. But telling someone that you regret that they felt you were unprofessional is fucked up. Oh, we're really sorry that you feel it was unprofessional for us to allow the CFO of our company to sexually harass you.
They were placing the blame on the people who were wronged. And that's been their typical response to a lot of things. They never admit culpability.
Like, let's just say, for instance, that some of these things just went under the radar and it was unintentional. Okay, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't realise they were doing some of these things. Then just say, we're sorry that we did this. We'll make it up to you. They didn't do that. They just denied it.
There now, you see, there's no problem too big that can't be solved by a humble apology.
Why the fuck you lying?
Our priority has always been to help content partners succeed and provide people a vehicle to follow their dreams.
That was not your priority in the slightest.
When the need arose, we have distanced ourselves from people who were particularly callous, letting go of significant stakeholders in the interest of keeping our mission at the forefront.
What stakeholders, assholes? The only people holding any stake in your company are your band of dudes up there in Chicago.
We appreciate and hear the frustrations of past producers. We're actively taking internal steps to better improve communication with our producers so they can be focused on putting out their great content. And we're open to constructive criticism, the kind that can help us become even better and serve the needs of our community. But criticism that isn't a means to a productive end does little for either the party criticizing or those in the line of fire.
Oh, you don't like what we do? Well, we don't like the way you said that. So we don't have to address it.
Our focus now is on moving forward with the wonderful team we have and all our dedicated followers. We want to make our collective future the best it possibly can be.
Then fucking do it. Fucking do it 8 years ago, okay?
We thank our content creators, team and fans for truly making our channel awesome. Here's to creating something even better in the future.
That means we would like to fucking put this in the past as quickly as possible, sweep this under the rug, and not actually address any of the concerns. Not a single actual concern.
Naturally, this non-apology wasn't very well received, most agreeing that the company were ignoring everything and putting the blame on everybody else. However, on April the 2nd, 2018, a Google Doc was made listing everybody's frustrations with the company, and you bet your ass we're going to go through the entire thing, but we're going to look at it from both sides. So we're going to see if these arguments actually are petty, and if Doug is to blame for any of them. Let's be open-minded and take a look. Once the document was produced, many were hopeful that Doug and his brother Rob were leaving the channel secretly, and all the videos being uploaded were made in advance. And then when they were proven wrong, they 180'd and claimed that Doug isn't to blame. It was all Mike Michaud despite eyewitness accounts, but we'll get to this.
Just got a quick question. Was the perfect environment? Is it a full one alley, a bad alley, probably not a good neighborhood? And there was just looking at me like, protect us.
I would love to tell you that I'm sitting with people were doing like something like that.
That is a favorite story of me insulted James Gunn at the bar.
Oh, God.
But remember, this document was made by people in the company who worked for the company and worked with these people that you guys have never met. So we do have to give them a bit more trust in what they're saying. We don't know. I've never met these people. A lot of you have never met these people. So we need to be open-minded and just hear them out and hear what they have to say. But now, apparently the people who worked for them and worked with them, they know nothing. But the fans who watch them on YouTube, they know what's up. There was a main misconception that the producers were complaining that they weren't paid to work on Channel Awesome and they weren't paid to star in the anniversary movies. Now this was true, they weren't paid and it was completely optional. Their travel and accommodation was entirely covered. But the point was more that they were giving the company their own free time and effort without being paid, and they were still treated poorly on set.
Doug is a terrible director. It was shitty because the organization was just shit. They had no storyboarding or just basic skills to make a movie, and Doug is so obtuse and think he can manage everything, and you can't, mate. You can't. I had a scene where I was just standing in the background, and the only thing I had to do in that scene was to body react to what they were saying. Well, at least I had no indication. Like, that's how good of a director Doug is. And they say, we have to reshoot that scene because something went wrong. And I was like, yeah, sure. And it was getting late, and they would let some producer leave because they didn't have anything more to film. They tell me, no, you have to stay because we have to reshoot that scene with Lindsay and Linkara, and you appear in the shot, so you have to be there. Like, okay, no problem. I spent like 3 or 4 hours sleeping on the ground in the cave, and around midnight, they say, hey Panda, it's now. I say, okay, jump in my suit, get up. Try to wake up, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to body act the shit out of this. And they film the scene, and I'm doing my stuff, and Doug is like really happy with the scene. So, oh, Panda, you want to go? And then I realized when the movie was out, they cropped me out of the scene. It's just to focus on Linkara and Lindsay. I was like, are you fucking serious? You made me stay for more than 12 hours. No, not 12 hours, but a fucking lot of time.
There were many instances when a man did something wrong, but instead of confronting them about it, they blamed the female that they knew instead. I mean, Spoonie once made an insensitive rape joke and was fired, but was also given a huge send-off and still brought back for cameos and well respected.
Noah didn't get fired either. Noah was suspended for a second, and then decided, you can't suspend me, I quit. You didn't fire him.
Allison left her computer for 15 minutes and was fired, got a brief goodbye message with all of her content removed in hours. In fact, Spoonie, real name Noah, posted things on Twitter and it turned out that he had bipolar disorder. He lashed out further and Allison was given death threats. Noah was suspended but given the choice and he chose to leave. Allison was then blamed as people felt like she got him fired, but Noah confirmed that it wasn't the case. However, the actual company publicly said nothing on the matter to defend her. They then wanted to suspend Allison for posting about it despite her breaking no rules, but they chose to keep her since her boyfriend was doing a lot of work on their movie, which we'll get onto later.
And a lot of people would assume that Doug and I are friends, and they would talk about him to me. And one day in mid-March, I'd just gotten one too many of these things. Someone asked me about Doug on Twitter. And so, for the first time in a while, I said something. I said, look, he treated us awfully. I don't like him.
A lot of the female producers felt uncomfortable talking to Mike Michaud, and he'd often get aggressive with them. He also kept everyone informed through his Skype chat, so if you weren't at your PC and missed an important message, you were screwed. Rob Walker was one of the CEOs to deal with issues, but he avoided the problems at all costs and called the producers children behind their backs.
And apparently Rob confused Welshie and me. because we're working as a duo, and of course Welshie, the Welsh guy, the ginger Welsh guy with glasses, and me, Panda, with brown hair, no glasses, not from Welsh, from Wales, sorry. And that was kind of insulting, like, oh Rob, you can't take us apart.
Many also believe that Doug is just a talent, but it was actually one of the CEOs, made many of the company's decisions, and has a huge part of the entire business. But he had little to no knowledge of technology. He didn't even know how to record commentary, so he got other people to record them for him, with them sitting quietly to not actually take part. This guy has millions of subs and I don't.
Well, have you guys ever been a fan of Nostalgia Critic or anything on Channel Awesome?
Alex and I were in a video of his.
I found it odd when we were asked to partake in that video on the Channel Awesome Twitter. I can't remember who was actually messaging me, but they were like, "Yeah, okay, I'll relay that to Doug."
Yeah.
It's like, why can't Doug do it? I don't understand.
We had a Skype call where we were in a call with Nostalgia Critic and the other guy, whoever runs the Channel Awesome.
Wait, was Doug actually in that call? I can't even
No,
remember.
he was, but he said like
Really?
2 words the entire time.
I don't even remember him being there.
Oh, he was there. He was just basically not talking the entire time. He said a couple words, and it was that was a very odd experience for me, because it was like either Doug doesn't give a shit or he's not really involved. I don't know. Everybody else I know, it's like when you are the forefront of your channel, especially, you know, if you're marketing yourself like that, you would think that you would have some sort of a drive or passion or any sort of care to at least be the person interacting with other people that you're trying to get onto your projects, you know?
Doug messaged me on Skype. First time he ever messaged me. And he was like, "Hey, do you have that thing?" No, I had no idea what he was talking about. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he tells me that I had a part in the early part of Kickassia, and he needed my part so that he could put it in, because the final editing was being done and he needed it because the due date was 24 hours later. And I was like, "You never sent me the script. How was I supposed to know?" And he was adamant that he sent me the script. For the life of me, would never tell me what email he sent it to. He just said he sent it. So I checked every single email. I never got it. I had to... And the best part was he still didn't give it to me.
I pitched this show to, I believe it was Rob. He came to me and said, "Hey, just wanted to let you know that we like your idea and we're gonna bring you on." I was super hyped that fact. I was like, you know what? I'll put all this stuff to the side. I'll put my gripes with the community to the side, and I'll make a bomb show that fucking everyone will like. So I got brought into the CA producers chat. I was there just talking with everyone. I'm like, "Hey guys, guess what? I'm back. I'm really excited to be back. It's nice to see you all. We got to catch up and whatnot." The next day, however, fucking Greg comes up to me and says, "Hey, you're not actually a producer on the website. I just wanted to let you know, why are you telling people all of this stuff when you clearly aren't?"
I've had kind of a general dissatisfaction with how the higher-ups run the site, and I felt that way for a long time.
Blistered Thumbs was a section of the site dedicated to video games, but this was shut down, and many of the producers weren't even informed until it was on the front page of the website. The entire site was clearly about Doug and Doug alone. The other producers never got a look in. Even in the anniversary movies, people noticed that the other producers were forced to act just like Doug.
And we start the first scene, cut, and Spoonie's like, "Oh, that's good, Panda. I mean, that's really your humor, it works well." I was flattered, you know, because I like Spoonie's work and he was complimenting me. But Doug was like, no, you should say it like this, you know? I was like, what? Well, say it like this, you know, like a cartoony character. I was like, but that's not me. And Doug was like, yeah, but I think it would be funny. I said, hey, hold on, I had to stop because he asked me several times to do that and I wouldn't. He said, and I told him, Doug, basically, you want me to be acting like the Nostalgia Critic.
Allegedly, he would direct them, but if they suggested doing it in a different way to suit their own character, Doug would ask them to do it both ways just so he could go and choose his take anyway.
I'm the Nostalgia Critic, and I can be a cock muppet and do whatever I want, because everybody knows who I am.
In August of 2013, Channel Awesome, for whatever reason, decided to start a fundraiser to start a pop culture game show. They wanted to raise $90,000. They filmed about a dozen episodes to test it out, but the studio they had purchased during the demo reel saga hadn't even been dampened for better sound. So they often rigged the questions so the contestants would win. This whole thing was Michaud's idea, but nobody else wanted to do it, but the game show wasn't even aired. It wasn't until March 2015, nearly 2 years later, Indiegogo investigated Channel Awesome to find out where the money went, and they had no choice but to release the monstrosity that looks like it was made on a budget of $10, not $90,000. What the hell do they spend it on?
On your marks, get set, go! Well, my job's done. I hit the on button. Alright, catch those fish, boys! I would ask if this is the cheap dollar store version of this game, but I can't honestly remember what the original version was called.
Many believe they just did the fundraiser to sort out some financial difficulties of their own that they were going through, and the Indiegogo rewards for its backers were even delivered 6 months late. The anniversary films are now really hard to watch when you realise the troubles that went on behind the scenes. They didn't even think to provide water on set for the actors, and if the producers shot any crossovers with each other, they had to hand over the revenue to Channel Awesome to make back the money. Wouldn't the movie itself make back the money? In fact, Suede confirmed that the producers were even mocked by requesting water on set of the movies, finding it to be an unreasonable request. Lindsay, who played Nostalgia Chick, asked about catering, and Doug literally laughed at her. It was only sorted once Noah pointed out that even student films provided catering.
By the way, feeding the actors and making sure that they have water while they're working is an industry standard. I figured you should know that if you want to make films or videos in your future.
There was also a sense of arrogance on all of the sets where the Walkers knew best and wouldn't take any advice despite not handling any of the shoots professionally. During the filming of Suburban Nights, one actress was taped to a wall for so long she nearly passed out, and due to the weather and their revealing costumes, people nearly fell ill. Doug, again to his credit, nearly called off the production due to the poor conditions and gave the actors the choice, all of which decided to support him and continue along, showing at this stage that they were loyal and determined to power through anything.
I knew what y'all were coming with, and we've already talked about it. All of us are on board. We all took an independent
the paper
vote.
is a waste of time.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was freezing my ass up just to confirm.
You guys are aware that we could have rain in these
Team B is
we were
just filming the rain.
I can't promise we won't be cranky, but we will do it.
No, I can promise we won't be cranky. And also,
Joe will make that promise.
Sunday and Monday, we don't care about. Like Easter does not. We're here. We're giving up everything in order to finish the production. And then what we'll do is we'll work all the way till it's completed. Yeah, it may not be the best, and the lighting may be this and that, but that's all stuff that you can figure out in editing, and I know you know how to edit, and you can create things, create magic in editing, and find different ways to make things work. So if we just all work to get to a single goal, finishing it, you know, we don't need any crossover days. Sunday, Monday, we'll work Easter, we'll work whatever. We talked about it.
We can extend on Monday as well.
Yeah, because Doug, we want to help. Like, we really want to see the project to completion, and we want you to use us to the best of our ability.
See, many have wondered if it was so bad, why didn't they do or say anything sooner? And although some of these problems may seem petty, we'll get to the more serious ones later, it's common for abuse victims to stay quiet out of fear. These were small producers compared to Doug, and Channel Awesome was their main source of income and views, so it's obviously normal to put up with it for your own well-being. They had families to support.
That Guy with the Glasses was all there was at the time. When we started, in early 2010, YouTube was not a great place to go with our kinds of content. They were a lot more stringent with their rules about usage of clips, and it was just really difficult to try and make a living that way. So a lot of us were on Blip TV, and Blip was not a great place to search for videos, so you had to be embedded on a popular site, and That Guy with the Glasses was one of them. If you spoke up about this, you were kicked off and you just disappeared. You didn't have anywhere else to go.
I basically relied on Channel Awesome for most of my views, and I just wasn't ready to leave.
However, despite my own personal liking of the movie, the producers themselves weren't particularly happy about A Boldly Flee. Many of them found it self-indulgent, way too long, too much of it focusing on Doug and Spoonie's counterparts, when that time could have been spent on the other producers.
You're like a hero to me.
Oh, come on, Film Brain, I'm no hero.
Yes, you are. You're the best critic there is.
I'm not even a good critic. All I do is yell and scream at things I don't like. What kind of critic does that?
You gave us a voice, a place to call our own.
And they felt like the movie just quoted other films for the sake of it. The cast weren't paid but were promised free DVDs of the movie, most of which weren't delivered.
Do I have to start paying you so I can cut your wages?
And many fans also didn't receive copies even when they ordered them. Crossovers during filming was impossible as the shoots were often 18 to 19 hours long, but Doug and Michaud tried to pressure people into making them anyway to make back the money. But the script was only given to the cast last minute, so they had hardly any time to read it. They had just 1 week to film a damn near 4-hour movie, and Holly, who was the director of human resources for Channel Awesome, had to beg them just to get more time to shoot. Doug would often have poor scheduling skills and were prepared to shoot 2 days worth within just 1 day, working everyone to the ground. Furthermore, he didn't even tell anyone that he had plans to kill off his character. They only found out in the script. He did briefly run it by Allison and Todd in the shadows so they could mention a few things in their videos to set up a subplot, but even then it was really randomly timed in the conversation considering it was a big deal. Furthermore, none of the producers were ever even asked for any input on the script. There's a scene where Linkara's robotic double Mechakara attacks the nostalgia chick and turns her into a machine herself, but it's edited and implied that she's being raped off screen. Film Brain goes to enter, hears the noises as Lindsay screams sexual innuendos and assumes that they're boinking, as confirmed in the next scene.
Film Brain, you look like you heard two people having sex. How would you know? Don't cringe. We know.
Well, are they coming?
Well, that's a loaded question.
What?
Now, I won't lie, I actually found this scene quite funny, but apparently in the original script it was a lot more vulgar and grotesque. Lewis, Linkara, and Lindsay both confronted Doug, finding this scene uncomfortable, and he didn't understand why. The scene doesn't even affect the plot whatsoever, but he still refused to cut it out and instead decided to tone it down, and it remains, despite how his producers and supposed friends were feeling. There's also a scene where Lindsay was to fight Allison. Lindsay wasn't a fan of the cat fight and expressed this to Doug on set, but he just yelled at them both to just do it anyway. Even Ed Glazer hated working on the film because Doug broke every rule of filmmaking and refused to listen to any advice. Ed claimed that he would never work with any of the Walkers ever again. But what angered the group more was that the film featured many lines of dialogue that made it seem like they were all quitting their shows and not just Doug.
You really think our time's at its end?
The world is changing, kid. The internet is changing.
Everybody's future is unknown. Just reality. The great mystery.
Yeah? What happens in the story?
Then the world I've created for you, and all the people in it, will disappear.
Bear in mind, this was also during the whole Soper act, so it looked like they were all throwing in the towel. That's the impression I got when watching it as well. But it was just Doug. It seemed like he was the only one that mattered. They were often behind on schedule, and if anybody would try to help, they would be ignored or an argument would begin. Now, a lot of these seem petty, and I agree that they seem petty. Sometimes a scene would be filmed, and then it turned out someone else was supposed to be in the background, and then they shot the following scene, and obviously they confronted Doug and Rob, said, oh, I was supposed to be in this in the last shot, but I wasn't there, continuity, and they would just be like, oh well, plot hole. To me, that's just harmless banter, but these people were already feeling miserable, so it's just kind of an addition. It's added on to all the other years where they felt like crap. They would shoot for 19 hours, would try to get maybe 3 hours rest, but then would be called back to film more. By their word, Doug was the only one who wasn't miserable. He thought it was a huge send-off that everyone was happy with. They even had an intervention with him to explain how poorly it was going, but he was still oblivious. Even after shooting, it continued. Phelan was part of the special effects team, and after Spoonie was fired, he was given his workload as well. I may be wrong, but I believe Phelan did the effects completely free, and when he sent it to Doug, he responded that he absolutely loved it. Then he went behind his back and asked Welshie to spy on him because he thought Phelan was half-arsing the effect.
So, Phelan, that eye effect you did, were you half-assing that one, or?
True dat, yo.
You should have done that explosion.
I did that explosion, then they put debris over it because they didn't ask me to redo it.
Oh hey, Doug!
Good news! Your balls arrived!
Then came the 5th anniversary special, where they asked a few producers to make a short film for an anthology series.
Every year I was overlooked, along with most of the other people who contributed to the website in Europe. Then the 5th year anniversary came along, and myself and other producers were asked if we wanted to make some short films. But this was after others were asked and turned it down, so that only came to light recently. I made a short mockumentary, which was called Internet Dating and Me, and I was actually given a budget for the film, that budget being 0. But they did take my film, slap it on the DVD, charge people for it, and make money. To which I made a grand total of F all. I actually lost money on that film in the end because I had to pay for hotels and locations and stuff, so there's that. I remember being at a convention with one of the big contributors to the website, and a fan ran up to them with a drawing that they'd done and gave it to them. Now, it wasn't a great drawing, but the fan had clearly put a lot of time and effort and passion into it, and they really wanted to give it to their favourite producer, and they did so, and they were so happy. The producer said thank you, and then the fan walked away, and then we walked away, and then the producer just put the drawing in the bin as we were walking. Just didn't even look over their shoulder to see if the fan was still there and watching. Just popped it in the bin. I was kind of shocked at the time, but looking back, it kind of works as a perfect analogy for this whole thing. Blatant disregard for people's feelings.
The producers also wanted the site to be more about everyone and not just Doug, so that's why it was rebranded. Originally called thatguywiththeglasses.com to now Channel Awesome, but it was still a banner of Doug and all of his characters.
But it's so much more than watching me as the Nostalgia Critic. You can watch me as Chester A. Bum on Bum Reviews, Dominic on Video Game Confessions, and my most challenging character, Doug Walker, in various sketches, vlogs, and review shows. If you don't like watching my face though, I pity you, but also recommend a vast variety of other shows that we have. Or if you want to check out even more people, you can check out ChannelAwesome.com, home to some great reviewers and comedic talent that are not me.
Mars Girl, real name Kaylin, had been a part of the site since pretty much the start, but right away she was told to hand her videos over to the company for them to upload and literally take the ad revenue from, promising to reimburse her, but they never did. Once Kaylin started her own channel, Michard became furious. Kaylin was upset and apologised, but she only made her own channel because Lewis had suggested it, which made Michard back off. Very often her videos were mistitled, and once she corrected it online, Michard insulted her for making him look bad. But Kaylin, by her own admission, was young and unsure how to deal, took the blame and apologised endlessly. It was also a problem that she was friends with Screw Attack, a video game based company. They were seen as Channel Awesome's rivals and didn't want Kaylin associated with them in case they stole her away, which makes about as much sense as a chocolate fire guard, considering Screw Attack was affiliated with the angry video game nerd who often worked with Doug himself.
What were they thinking?
Kaylin felt bullied and backed away, not speaking to many people associated with the site whatsoever. She felt bullied and was terrified to even log on to Skype in case she received any nasty messages from Mike Michard. The producers also had to make their own costumes for the anniversary movies, which would be reimbursed financially, but they also had to hand over the costumes they had slaved over, which Kaylin refused to do. Once they wrapped up to boldly flee, Kaylin and the others felt like they had been used. The company had scrapped the anniversary movies and confirmed that no more were being made, all because Doug's show was ending. They felt like that was it, and they were now completely useless, just because Doug wasn't doing his anymore. Much like Alison, Kaylin had considered leaving for a while, but her manager, who helped her with convention appearances, suggested staying, as it would help her get work, and she agreed. She wanted to wait until the 10-year anniversary of her show, but decided to leave on her 9-year in September of 2017. Her content was all removed from the website in less than an hour. The others had a goodbye message, even if it was brief, but Kaylin got none, despite how long she had been there for. And Suede left with Lewis, but their archive was removed, and people weren't even informed that they had gone anywhere.
So what it ended up with was a scenario where these people aren't Doug, they're not Brad, they're not Lewis. So, oh, you didn't post 2 videos a month, immediate ban hammer. And that happened a lot. Person who had been with the site for numerous years had an extenuating circumstance that they tried to explain to the site administrator, only for the site administrator to not give them enough credit. And then the moment that the first day of the next month started, like 12:01 a.m., boom, removed from the site, banned.
A lot of people defend Doug because for whatever reason, Michard actually owns the IP of the Nostalgia Critic character.
And when push comes to shove, remember I own Nostalgia Critic, it does not belong to Doug. Da, 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 da.
They have no idea what they're doing. The only one that was smart enough was Michard for protecting the IP of the Nostalgia Critic, you know, the bread and butter of the website. And basically, if Doug wants to leave and make a new show, he can call it the Nostalgia Critic.
Why would you sign away the rights to your own character? But to this day, the producers themselves aren't even sure what the hell Michaud did on the website. The aforementioned Holly was made uncomfortable by another higher-up, Mike Ellis, who tried to pursue her romantically despite being already married at the time. He even threatened to fire her at one point for doing so, but Ellis was only let go years later despite management knowing what he was doing, and Holly was kept in a safe house in case he came after her. Doug and Rob literally had baseball bats and swords, Holly had a golf club, and they even had pepper spray to defend themselves. Was this real life or a Scooby-Doo cartoon? It was Holly who actually saved the production of Suburban Nights when Doug wanted to call it quits.
And the other thing that really pulled me through was when I was thinking, you know, maybe dropping the production, was somebody who worked her ass off, and that is Holly.
Yeah.
Because she came in and literally said, not only do I think you can do this, but everyone else thinks you can do this. This is what you're thinking right now is totally wrong. Get in there and, you know, find out. And she was 100% right. And on top of that, she has been practically our mother throughout this whole shoot, getting us food, being very, very determined. If you look under the bar, Holly, there's actually a little something for you.
She even came to work on To Boldly Flee after surgery. She only missed filming when she needed to get a drain taken out of her abdomen. She worked through weekends, holidays, and even when she had surgery. She even worked on Christmas one year, but she was fired a day after surgery. After everything she had done for the company. She was literally told that she had to drive to the studio, which was against doctor's orders by the way, or she would lose her job. There was no reason given either, and she was forced to sign a contract or she wouldn't be paid. This contract prohibited her from working in the industry for 3 years. Okay, continue defending these assholes?
She worked 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. You know, she worked above and beyond any possible schedule that anybody could ever assign to a worker and think that's acceptable. She essentially had to be there for us at all times, for us to answer anything. Once Holly was let go, in that awful situation, they had no one to talk to.
Oh, and for those blinded fanboys, it was Doug himself who was the deciding vote to fire her one day after surgery, despite everything she had given them. Holly felt like her life had been ruined and she was left miserable for years. It was around the time that Allison and Phelan had left the site when long-term producers like Lewis began to realise that the company was dying and was no longer what it once was.
And then the site became more and more popular, they made money, but for me, to these days, they don't know how to run a company properly.
However, Lewis remained optimistic and felt like he could change things. He wanted to help newer producers and didn't want to admit that the site was dying, contacting management with ideas to improve things, which included better communication, sharing the studio space, the return of the anniversary movies, reducing advertisements on the site, and many more. These were all completely rejected. Lewis literally confronted Mike Michaud and claimed the way Allison and Phelan were treated made the others lose respect for him, and he responded with okay.
Michaud, I know he did some bad things. When I read the document, I was like, oh fuck. But the thing is, I'm feeling really guilty saying he was nice to me. Like, I remember a lot of people had trouble getting in touch with him, but for some reason, he would always reply to me in the day. Mike Michaud, you were nice to me when I was in Chicago. Thank you for paying for the plane and the hotel. Thank you for the Chicago Bulls game. But the way you acted, man, no. I can't tolerate that. That was shit. That was really shit.
Oh, we had plenty of laughs along the way.
We sure did, Michaud. We sure did.
Despite this, he set out to make his own movie based on his Atop the Fourth Wall video series, funded by his own fans, but the studio space required was considered far too expensive. He reached out to Michaud and Rob Walker to use the Chicago studio. Rob was open to the idea, but Michaud refused, claiming that it would ruin the Nostalgia Critic's schedule, and that they would need to be supervised at all times. Because apparently 10 years isn't enough time to gain loyalty and trust.
Are you high?
And they would need insurance to cover any damage caused. Furthermore, Lewis offered to reimburse any lost revenue for the critic's schedule being changed, but even then, Doug has shot episodes away from the studio in the past, including 5 years beforehand. Benzai's girlfriend had previously done the artwork for Suburban Nights, which was for the DVD only, but Michaud sold all of it in limited prints as well, making more money off of other people's hard work without their consent.
Time for me to make money off your hard work.
Chaos D1 felt bullied as he was removed schedule access when he was a day late with the video due to his wife's medical emergency, and he had also provided 4 videos that month and had never missed a schedule in 5 years beforehand. He was then fired without discussion shortly after, despite many long-term producers often going months without an upload and no punishment was administered whatsoever. But if you're still not sold on why this company is a pile of crap, let's talk about Dr. Gonzo of Nerd to the Third Power. Gonzo was on the site from the very beginning, loving it at first, but it wouldn't last forever. After a while, people would respond to him a lot less. Left in the dark, Gonzo was confused as to why everyone was ignoring him, until discovering that Mike Michaud was telling people that he was trouble and that they should avoid him. It's worth noting that this part is actually only hearsay, it's not 100%, so we cannot confirm if this part is actually true. Gonzo hosted a podcast on the site, but after a while he wasn't able to see his view number and therefore couldn't see how his show was doing. When confronting Michaud after being ignored for a while, he was told, "Stop asking for your numbers, they suck anyway because nobody comes here to listen to you." From there on after, Gonzo would randomly receive messages from Mike telling him, "Your numbers are low, get them up or you'll be booted from the site." But he wouldn't even tell him his actual numbers. Gonzo's videos also always got pushed to the bottom of the page, even when planned months in advance, so his content was always ignored, mostly when Michaud was doing the updates. Again, Mike would reply, "Why do you care? Nobody listens to you anyway. Your numbers suck. It doesn't matter if you go on the front page." He would also insult his show for the music or any guests he had, and even lambasted him if he ever did a movie review, saying that that's what Doug was for. Naturally, Gonzo fell into a fit of depression, feeling bullied and harassed, but unfortunately it wouldn't end there. In January of 2014, one of the producers, Justin Carmichael, who went by the name Juario, committed suicide by shooting himself in the head with his wife on the other side of the door. He always seemed happy, and it just came as a huge shock to everyone that knew him that he suffered so much depression behind closed doors. Gonzo didn't know him that well, but Justin was extremely well respected, and Gonzo wanted to do an online wake where everyone could get together to say a few words about him. Nobody was really talking about doing anything like it, so he approached Michaud, who told him that he wouldn't have to worry about it. Naturally, Gonzo then assumed they've got something planned, but Michaud then continued, "Nobody knows who you are. They won't care about anything you're going to put together. We're going to have Doug or Lewis or someone put something together. Someone people actually come here to see." He wasn't allowed to pay tribute to a lost friend because it wouldn't get views. Once they transitioned from that guy with the glasses to Channel Awesome, Gonzo's laptop crashed and he lost his login information. When he asked Michaud for them, he ignored him for months, and then all of his work was removed from the website without any notice. Gonzo hated his time there and was treated like a whipping boy, bullied, harassed, and made to feel worthless.
The Mike Ellis situation was right around the time of the first anniversary of the website, the Brawl. So I'm at home and me and Ellis are just talking, and we're just talking like we normally do. There's no actual voice chat this time. I think it was after about an hour or two, the conversation took a very strange turn. It became very sexual. It was very unsettling to have this guy who's essentially your boss saying very weird things to you. I stopped responding. For the next probably 2 hours, he has a conversation with himself, but he was having full-on conversations about with himself about what he wanted me to do, what he wanted to do to me, and just stuff like, "Oh, we heard somebody told me through the grapevine that you were gay." I'm just completely freaked out. I'm kind of panicking because this is not attention I ever wanted from this man. I eventually showed it to Michaud. I said, "I'm sorry, I know it's really late and you're probably really busy, but this is happening. I don't know what the fuck to do. Ellis is freaking me out." I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes later, he was just like, "Told him he can't be doing this shit. I'll take care of it."
It was never spoken of again, but this was before the anniversary brawl, and Ellis wouldn't be fired for another 2 years after that, despite the sexual harassment. Beth was one who joined the company for a series called Awesome Comics, and she was promised a specific hourly wage, but once it was pay time, she was only paid for her time on camera and not actually the amount of work she had provided. When confronted, the reason given was that they needed to save money. Topher from Full Fantastic was quite young at the time, just 16 years old, and he was going through some personal problems as he had only just discovered that he was actually gay. He confided in Holly with the information, requiring time away to sort things out. He was told to do this if anything came up. After some time away, he was ready to come back, even buying new equipment, but without warning, his work had been completely removed from the website. Talking to Holly apparently wasn't good enough, and management, one of which included Rob Walker, insulted the experience he was going through at the time and gave no sympathy, empathy, or care about his struggles, laughing at him. At the time, Topher thought he was worthless.
During those years, that was one of the best times of my life. Even all these years later, knowing what would happen, I still kind of long for those days. What can I say? I guess I'm kind of nostalgic for the Nostalgia Critic, back when I could still watch it. And where others had sustained grievances, mine was limited to one bad day. Until I stumbled across Change the Channel, I was under the assumption that Channel Awesome itself was still fine. In the end, I could have simply had an unfortunate run-in during a tough time in my life. After all, I was only the second producer to be removed from the site. In a way, I'm happy my connection was severed. I found so much more in my life since then. When I found Change the Channel, it was quite revelatory. It's really quite an odd feeling to realize you weren't alone in something that you thought you were.
In fact, Mike Dodd was responsible for Blistered Thumbs, and once that flopped, he was let go, but Dodd was never informed. He had to be told through his friend, Tom White.
Alright, also, I believe Mike Dodd was waiting for his password too, so I don't think he's online right now. But
I mean, that's one person where you might not be bringing in, so... I thought I had you from before. I thought you were part of the group meeting with all these stuff. So... But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Furthermore, Tom White held a contest and was going to offer a prize, but Mashad stepped in and offered his Sega Genesis as a reward. One guy from Russia won it, and Mashad promised that he sent it off immediately. However, months passed and the guy never received the prize, so of course Tom White was stuck in the middle, contacting Mashad for information, but he was ignored constantly, so Tom had to send the winner a gift card instead. He emailed the guy years later and the Genesis still hadn't been delivered, but it wouldn't stop there. They all had to produce at least 2 videos a month, but Tom was struggling with his personal life and contacted Mashad's brother Greg to warn him that it may be late, which he said was fine. In December 2016, he got his first one done early and his second by the 30th, but it needed more tweaking and scheduled it for January the 1st. But that one extra day was enough. He was removed from the site with his login completely revoked the next day. He had been on the site for 6 years. However, they did reinstate him and gave him another chance. But Tom was furious at how everyone was being treated and decided to leave anyway. It's always been clear that Doug was the only focus. Many people were ignored to promote Doug's content instead, despite most people visiting the site to see him anyway, but some were promised a shout out from him, which happened, but just once. Even then, he seemed uninterested in what he was actually promoting, and this was the problem. Even he didn't care about any content that he didn't make. I should also point out, and I can't reveal my source or names at their request, but Doug would very often imply that he just wouldn't watch anybody else's content on the website, and if you even suggested it, he would find it an absurd suggestion. Lindsay left in late 2014. She also had problems with how the anniversary movies were handled in the aforementioned rape scene, but she also helped a lot of the newer producers who joined the site. One of which was Dan Olsen, who did journalism. Dan posted an article about 8chan's complicity in child pornography, and this led to him receiving backlash, being dubbed a paedophile for doing a journalistic piece of work about child porn. Because of this, Dan wasn't blamed, but Lindsay was, because she had defended him, and Mashad had an entire history of blaming women instead of men. The company never stood up for Dan whatsoever, and not long after, Dan, Lindsay, and Kyle Corcoran all left. But this is where we have to touch on some really uncomfortable material. There's a lady who remains anonymous who claimed that a producer on the site groomed her. She was 18 at the time, but had the mind of a 16-year-old, though this man groomed her sexually. It wasn't strictly rape, but he convinced her that he was teaching her how to kiss and have intercourse. She was naive and believed that he cared about her. It wasn't until later that she realised what he did. What makes this even more astonishing is that Channel Awesome management knew about this and still didn't let the individual go until a year or so later. But we'll come back to this another time.
I was mostly, though, with Lewis's stuff. We were dating at the time, and so I would assist him with his videos and do his plot lines and stories and things like that. As it turned out too, I also worked on Suburban Nights, but Lewis at the time didn't have a vehicle and didn't drive, so they asked me, hey, do you want to come down and kind of help out a little bit, maybe be a production assistant, and you would just drive your vehicle down there, and we'll put you up in the hotel with Lewis. I said, great. I also ended up working probably from about 6 in the morning. You had to be down in the lobby at 6 a.m. to sometimes 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. So literally the entire day and then some. And really the only time you really got to eat was sometimes in the morning, sometimes for lunch. If they were doing dinner, which was hit or miss, honestly, then they would feed you at that point. But I was not the talent. That was something that was said very early in the production, where I think it was like the first day or second day I asked if I could get a coffee, and they said, no, that's for the talent, and you're not the talent. That was funny too, because later on in the production I changed over. I played Cloak 2, so I was an actress in that. I got hurt on site. They had me sign a waiver saying that they weren't responsible for any injuries.
She was given this contract to sign before even being given any first aid. There were two groups of cast and crew. One would film one day while the others rested, and then vice versa. But Liz worked every day and was never reimbursed, nor was she thanked. Doug also never required filming permits, nor did he check any opening times beforehand, so they arrived to shoot in a park, but it was closed. They broke in to shoot, and if anyone questioned it, they were told to shut up. They were given no blankets or anything during the long cold shoots outside. Liz wasn't allowed to be in the group photos, but Holly was, and Liz wasn't even invited to the wrap party at the end, and was never thanked for any of her work. 4 in total were injured during the film, and there were no safety precautions whatsoever. I also want to take this time to talk about my personal experience with Channel Awesome, as some people are still a bit confused as to what went down. I did actually apply to be on Channel Awesome, and Rob did reply and turn me down, but to be fair, he was completely professional and kind about it. But in 2010 I met Darren, the rap critic, and we did an episode of my show reviewing Moulin Rouge. This is when I was 19 and trying so desperately to be edgy, so we were both unhappy with the video, especially when I dropped a homophobic slur.
I had come to write about truth, beauty, freedom, and that which I believed in above all things, love.
Faggot.
Sissy.
Pansy.
Sissy!
Although I intended it to mean that the character was a wimp, not gay, I genuinely do apologise for the slur and for anyone that I may have offended. Darren soon joined Channel Awesome afterwards and graciously put the episode on the site, but naturally it received a lot of backlash from fans and I believe some higher ups for homophobia. For the record, Darren had absolutely nothing to do with it, so please don't blame him. We have spoken since and we're both moving past it, but that wasn't the end of it. I continued being a fan of the company, and in early 2018 a subscriber of mine went to a convention and met Tamra Chambers. He asked her to record an intro for me and amazingly, she did it.
Hi, my name is Tamara Chambers and this is Cinematic Venom.
I was a big fan of Tamra, so you can imagine how hard I fanboyed. Not long after, the controversy began and I decided to capitalise on it. It was a dark time, so I chose to bring some light to the situation. I did a comedy sketch as Doug and I sent it to Alison. Amazingly, she and even Kaylin saw it and enjoyed it.
Cinematic Venom's in the room. Love you too. I know you and I have been talking a little bit, but your skits from last year really gave me life. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you for talking to me too, and just kind of being in here right now.
People wanted more, so I turned it into a series which was well received, but I made a point to not attack Tamra or Malcolm as they had nothing to do with it. And for the record, I believe them when they say they had no idea about any of this abuse going on. I genuinely believe them when they say that. But it's how they handled the situation afterwards. During my tirade of making fun of Channel Awesome, I received a comment on my channel from Tamra herself asking if I'd used her intro. Bear in mind that I never sent any of my sketches to her or Channel Awesome at this point. They found it on their own. But this was the same week that Dan Ball had seen my content and she didn't say anything to make me think anything was wrong, so naturally I was excited that 2 heroes of mine saw my work. However, upon tweeting, Tamra harshly and publicly insulted me and claimed that she wanted me to take it down and she had no idea why I would think she was being nice. I won't even lie, this hurt. I looked up to her and I was deeply upset. I agreed to stop using the intro, but the damage was done. It wasn't until I pointed out that I was a patron of hers that she apologised, removed the tweet and messaged me privately, blaming her actions on her manic depression. I was a huge fan of hers and I didn't want to believe that she was being nasty, so I accepted this apology. But this was when the Google Doc dropped and Channel Awesome finally issued a response. We'll go through it momentarily, but I was at the stage where I was hurt that one of my inspirations had lashed out at me like this, and I just didn't want to believe that she was doing this, and I wanted to believe that Channel Awesome maybe were just misunderstood. So I even sent Tamra an apology, asking her to forward it to Doug himself. I bought their apology because of my own naive hope, but she never saw the message. After I saw people's response to what Channel Awesome said, I came to my senses and realised what was going on. Malcolm and Tamra, again, I believe, were unaware of any of this, but they handled this really badly. When Channel Awesome issued their response, people tweeted them about it, not buying their nonsense, and they would ignore any complaint, simply replying with "read," which came across as closed-minded and arrogant. They disregarded all of the people who were hurt by what this company did and just said "read" as if their claims were nothing. And Malcolm's defense was, I've been on their sets and it's always been professional, and I believe that too. I believe they've changed. So what's wrong with just saying we've learned from our mistakes and we're sorry for the past? That's okay. That's all you have to do.
Okay, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait until, you know, the Channel Awesome administration makes a statement to see if hopefully they'll make things right. And then after they do that, after they make their move and see how they're gonna try to fix this, then I'll make my decision. Unfortunately, they didn't do that, and it's just a rebuttal to a lot of the accusations, as opposed to what they should have done, which is an apology followed by an offer to try and make amends.
I just want an apology.
I think just a lot of us want a fucking apology. I want Mike Michaud to just own up to the fact that he fucked up. I don't want a non-apology. I don't want to be told, oh, I'm sorry you feel that we did a shitty job. I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear an apology. I want a sincere fucking apology from you guys. It's not that hard. Just 2 words, I'm sorry. We're sorry. Terribly sorry. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sorry. I'm just sorry.
Within a couple of weeks, 40 plus people had left Channel Awesome, leaving just Doug, Brad, and Guru Larry, who pretty much only stayed as a joke. His Twitter was making fun of the site the entire time. I guess they don't check his feed. He was having the time of his life.
Hey! If you don't go, you're on fire!
Since the posting of the Not So Awesome document on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, we have been exploring all of our options of how to address the lies that have been alleged by multiple disgruntled individuals with vindictive intentions. See, last time they said, oh, we're sorry that you felt that way, and now they're full on calling them liars. They're ignoring all of their pain. I don't understand. Like, did all of these people just wake up one day, you know what? Let's destroy a company today, because why not? They're lovely people, but, you know, I just feel like ruining their lives, ruining their careers. Why not, lol? The company decided to not cover the entire document, but only nitpick some of the stories, but these are some of the worst defenses I have ever seen. In response to the sexual grooming case by the anonymous woman, they provided a screenshot proving that they found out about his acts, and after consulting a lawyer, they let him go after 3 weeks, not a year. However, not only was this the wrong woman, this was not the woman in the Google Doc. There were 3 victims that we're aware of.
Both of us, it turns out, knew different sexual assault survivors. I knew one, he knew another. There was at least an example of a third person, and then there was the grooming person.
The screenshot was one of the other 2, but also they did a terrible job covering up the name.
Channel Awesome basically blurred out the name, but they left kind of a J in the front, and they also matched it up. They left the timestamps. So anybody with half a brain could figure out who it was.
So fans were mortified that they could now see that the sexual predator was Justin, the previously mentioned suicide victim Juario. Justin was married and the woman in question wanted to remain anonymous, and for Justin to remain anonymous to protect his wife.
Comes these chat logs, which, by the way, are not chat logs about the Jane Doe that we were talking about. The one that chatted with us that day before we dropped our document. This was an entirely separate Jane Doe who had an entirely separate set of circumstances. Juario was a sexual predator. I had only first heard of this just barely before we released this document. I can't believe this was even my friend.
I didn't know Justin very well. He appeared in one of my videos. I talked to him over email a few times. He was really nice to me. I was talking to Will about it. And I said, I can't believe that it would ever be Justin. I can't believe people are saying that about him. It's so sad. And he said, why can't you believe that? That's exactly how a groomer acts. And I realized that's true. What do you look for in somebody who grooms young women and young underage girls to be sexual with them? Well, you look for someone who's nice. You look for somebody who is trustworthy. You look for someone who could just be your older brother or your dad, just a sweet person. And you often look for somebody who's an older individual in a community of people who are largely younger. And that is exactly what Justin was.
This has backfired on them. Totally blew up in their face, outed Justin's name.
Essentially, I'm able to work at a suicide hotline, sexual assault hotline, or crisis hotline. My point is that I'm not, you know, some naive Pollyanna. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I have skills and experience to doing this stuff. One of the instructors was the police chief of Oakdale in Minnesota, and I had others like that. Or one was had been a commander in St. Paul, or a police commander in St. Paul. So I mean, these are actual police officers teaching, and we of course had sex crime and sexual assault stuff too. A friend of mine approached me and said, "There's an individual who'd been raped. They want to speak to you because they don't know what to do." I still had something of a reputation that I was doing this stuff. Based upon my experience of volunteering at the Sexual Assault Center and based upon the education that I had, I was 98% certain they were telling the truth. And the reason I give 2% is because I could be wrong. Justin was my friend. I would call him at that point as a friend, and I know he was a friend for a lot of people. And so I basically said, "You have my word that I won't speak a word of this," because that's what you do to support a victim or a survivor. So you have to do whatever they feel comfortable doing. You know, it would have been great for me to kind of go out and actually confront Justin about this, but I don't think I was ever really at the point where I could. They wanted to bring him back at one point too.
Which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it weren't for the fact that victims could now be in trouble, could now be further victimized by people just looking to attack because they think it's fun. Not to mention Justin's family, who was totally unaware of any of this. Channel Awesome, how despicable of you to do this. There's a reason, very specific reason why it is that we did not include names. You just want to cover yourselves, and you'll put anyone else in the line of fire, including victims of sexual assault, in order to further your agenda and call 20 to 40 people liars.
So let's rewind to when Gonzo wanted to pay tribute to Justin. Instead of just explaining what they had heard, Mashad decided he'd rather just insult him personally. Doug then went on camera and gave a huge tribute to Justin, knowing the truth.
On January 23rd, 2014, former Channel Awesome producer Justin Carmichael committed suicide. I think the reason that Justin is really something special is because despite knowing what we know now, we will still remember him as this upbeat, cheerful, positive, wonderful human being. And that's because he has shared so much of that positivity with us. He has shared so much goodness with us.
What a horrible thing to do, to put somebody on a pedestal who is the complete opposite type of person to be put on a pedestal.
Now, for legal reasons, I understand not telling the entire world. Obviously, legally, you can't do that. But after Justin was fired, he continued working with other producers and they never told them. There was no warning for their own safety. After he died, Kaylin raised $10,000 to make a movie in his memory and nobody stepped in. They did everything in their power to protect and defend a sexual predator.
Man, do I wish someone had told me. Why didn't somebody tell me? I would have not made Farewell Fami Kamen Rider if I had known. Why would I have done that? If the work that I or anyone else who worked on our projects together, if our work ever hurt anyone by existing, I'm so sorry that we did that to you.
Channel Awesome also claims that Mike Ellis quit the company and that there was no communication from him since Sean exposed the sexual conversation to Mashad, but many former Channel Awesome producers claim otherwise. No proof from the company is provided, just a screenshot of the Google Doc for some reason. When discussing the website losing traffic after the Nostalgia Critic ended, instead of admitting they made a mistake, they actually blamed it on the fact that they switched to YouTube more, because nothing can be their fault, you see?
Channel Awesome made a huge mistake when they created the League of Super Critics, the YouTube channel. They killed their site when they did that. I will never be able to understand why they created the League of Super Critics YouTube channel, because it basically took the biggest producers that the majority of the people come to the site for, and made sure they had no reason to go to the site ever again. You know, why, if they're gonna come and see Doug, Lewis, Brad, whoever else posts on that channel, why would they go all the way to the site to go to each of their individual video lists, when instead they can just come to this one YouTube channel, watch it, and then watch more stuff on YouTube, which is probably what they want to do anyway.
In response to the producers being forced to work the anniversary specials unpaid and were poorly treated anyway, Channel Awesome literally responded by saying, well, you didn't have to do them. Look, that is literally the reply. Just read this. Look. This is a real company. With adults. And in response to the management having sexist agendas, they can't be sexist because they've worked with other women who've had no problems whatsoever. Hitler couldn't have been an arsehole because he had thousands working with him. They even claim that Holly quit on her own accord despite her providing screenshots to prove otherwise, and they deny all accusations by her with no evidence. Literally, they say, oh, this is the allegation. They're saying this. Fact is... No, we didn't do that. That's a fact. That's their proof. They also claim she didn't work on To Boldly Flee, which she again disproved with a photo of her on the set of To Boldly Flee. Although this screenshot does show them telling her to rest up when she was in pain, but we also have evidence of them firing her a day after, so they just make themselves look even more two-faced here. They show a screenshot where Lindsay chats to Doug about the rape implication seen in To Boldly Flee, where she's sending the audio and doesn't seem to have a problem with it. But again, Lindsay and Lewis had a fight for it to even be toned down, so by this point, of course they had given up and just did as they were told, so this screenshot proves nothing. And to respond to Alison's claim that everyone was miserable on the film set, they show a clip that was on the DVD where Alison clearly praised the experience, but she doesn't even look or sound like she means what she says.
I thought I would just add, you know, that it was a great production to be a part of. It was a lot of fun to be part of this and Suburban Nights. I hope that future projects are in the works and that, you know, all of us get to work together again. I love being a part of this site and a part of these productions, and it truly is really the highlight of this year and last year, you know, getting to spend time with such great people and do what I love doing most, and that's entertaining people and creating things.
So I think it's safe to say you can't necessarily judge someone's honest opinion based on a DVD bonus feature.
You're not going to buy Taken and on the DVD Liam Neeson's like, yeah, this film's shit, don't watch this. Why is Liam Neeson Batman? The only thing they admit is the lack of communication, but they claim that they're improving on it, which is another lie. You see, not long before this, they were bringing the cast together to shoot a 10-year anniversary special.
2018 being the 10-year anniversary of the website, the big milestone, rumours began to circulate that, they are making an anniversary film. And have you heard? Have you not heard? Ooh, there are rumours. Rumours.
I get an email asking me if I want to be a part of the Channel Awesome 10th anniversary special.
Once the cast started dropping like flies, it was ultimately cancelled. Oh, and again, I can't reveal my source, but I have actually been told what the plot was for the 10-year anniversary special. Don't worry, guys, you weren't missing out much. It was stupid. But Angry Joe, who had been on the site for years, wasn't even informed that it was cancelled. Furthermore, one actor, again I can't say without revealing my sources, was replaced by another, but the script never changed. They literally just changed the character's name, but the dialogue all remained the same. And this was even done in Suburban Nights. Todd wasn't supposed to be in it, Lord Cat was. Once they swapped, the dialogue was all exactly the same with some improvisations on the day. People were outraged by Channel Awesome's unprofessionalism, immaturity, and refusal to accept any responsibility for their own actions. But things died down for a while. They did receive a load of dislikes and lost loads of subscribers, but hashtag changed the channel simmered quickly. Though Channel Awesome themselves blocked me on Twitter, so I clearly got their attention. I also dropped a diss track after their response, which was fire, and finally responded to Tamra and Malcolm, who I now had a problem with. I hated how they responded to people. Malcolm denied all claims and stated that it all must have happened before he joined, which Holly refuted entirely. They both still called everyone liars and defended the company. Tamra blocked me too after the diss track, but Malcolm and myself did exchange some words. To which, honestly, Malcolm, I'd like to apologise for. I did resort to some immature name-calling, and I'm sorry for that. But maybe it's just me, but if my friend was doing things this douchey, I would call him out on it. Even if you haven't seen it, if people are accusing him, you've got to take that seriously, because these are serious allegations. 40 plus people saying all this stuff, they're not all lying. Months later, Brad for the first time spoke up about the subject in a Toast to Toast interview where he literally said people should just get over all of the controversy.
Okay, we put out a little tweet where we said that we weren't leaving. Doug and Rob are two of my best friends. I put that out. I mean, it was a headache for a little bit because it would just kind of come up like in comments and on our live streams and things like that in the chat, and we would get tweets about it, and we had a good head about it. Sure. Because one, we knew that after a few weeks, people are going to move on to something else. And one thing that we kept saying on our site and other sites as well, is we were saying, like, I mean, look, like, Logan Paul filmed a dead body, and, like, he still has a career. I just want an apology, even if you don't mean it.
Okay, unsubscribe from him as well. Brad was thought to have been friends with these people, and now he has said that they've acted petty and should get over nearly a decade of torment, bullying and abuse. Allegedly, Brad and his family received abuse when the controversy sparked up, even people threatening his grandmother to the point they had to move. And obviously that's wrong, but it doesn't condone what he's defending. And not long after, the company continued going to conventions like nothing happened and promoting charities to make themselves look good. It no longer seemed like they did it to help people, it was like they were using the charities to get themselves out the hole they put themselves in. So there you have it. Petty issues, or a lot of severe reasons to dislike the company. I mean, after all, do you still watch Bill Cosby comedy specials? Didn't you all boycott Jeepers Creepers 3 because of what the director did? And weren't you all outraged at Logan Paul for the Suicide Forest stuff? Why is Channel Awesome any different?